Frank just said that he couldn't fathom coming here for just a week or two and then having to leave because, you know, it's a vacation and it's time to go home. I couldn't either. That's just not enough time.
No. You know, I just think that people take their life for granted. I think that they just assume that everything is going to always be predictable and the way they want it to be.
I think people think that they can't go somewhere and live because it's too expensive. That's what I think. I think that they don't know how to budget their money, but save up for a vacation and then take their yearly or every couple of year vacation, and it's 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah, I think there's more to it than budgeting, though. I mean, there's a concerted strategy there that has to be implemented, and it does take knowledge of techniques, not to. You know, I'm just saying, you know, that it's not automatic. It's not, oh, here, let's just do this. Because I see people, you know, like in the travel trailer community, you've got people spending $60,000 a year in a travel trailer. I wasn't spending that. I wasn't spending half that in a house with a pool and 3.5 acres. And they're spending $60,000 a year in a motorhome, you know, and they're saying, well, you know, I'm spending the same amount as when I was living in a home. Well, that's the wrong comparison. You know, I mean, I was spending half that, which tells me that if I was doing it, I could probably do it for half of what these people are doing it for. So just to use that as an example, not to focus on motorhoming, you know.
Well, I think that it is a big deal to move abroad, but I think that once you're abroad and you already moved and you don't have the burden of a vehicle and a bunch of furniture and a house that you bought, that you can do whatever you want.
Exactly, and I think that that's the point, is that people are used to doing things a certain way, and in order to break out of that thinking of the way they always do things, you know, it takes a whole picture. In other words, it's like a puzzle and you put the pieces together and then it falls together. But to say that, well, I live on $60,000 a year in my home, and if I could tour the country and do it for that, I would want to do it. In other words, they haven't really learned or applied any new techniques or skills. All they did is they traded their life in a home for a life in a motorhome, and they implement the same strategies or techniques, or maybe the lack of them, as they go day by day, and they end up spending the same amount of money. So why is this important? Because money is important. You know, if money wasn't important, there wouldn't be so many people focusing on money and talking about money all the time. I mean, we can pretend that it doesn't matter, but the bottom line is, it's going to be a lot easier to have to come up with $60,000 a year, to have to come up with half that, $30,000 a year, $20,000 a year. It's going to be a lot easier, and without having to resort to extreme minimalism or extreme, you know, techniques of deprivation and that kind of thing. If you knew that you didn't have to resort to that and still having the abundant life that you had before, but only on one half, or if you got really good like we are, on 1/3, depending on how much you're spending, it could be even less. So we're talking about possibility thinking here, and I've said before that a professional industrious frugalist, early retired, is first and foremost a possibility thinker, because if we weren't, we wouldn't be in Italy right now on the beach.
Hon, do we have to leave this in 2 weeks?
We don't have to leave it in 2 weeks. We don't have to leave it in 2 months. So I understand how people are occupied with their daily lives, and because of that, it's a question of time. See, there's only so much time in a day that you devote to your daily life and your job and all these responsibilities. And in order to acquire a methodology that puts you in a different, it spins you into a totally different time zone, like a time machine, where all of a sudden all these possibilities pop up. But because you weren't there before, because you were over here in this time dimension of lack of time, you didn't see them. You didn't see all these possibilities. But when you spin yourself into this new time era where you have time and you can make things happen, and you start realizing all of the possibilities, then you can start putting together the puzzle of your real life. You know, the life you wish you had or want to have.
Wow, that's really encouraging, hon.
You know, that's really what we're talking about.
If that doesn't encourage people, I don't know what will.
So, talking about the example of those folks, nice folks in a travel trailer, they get to tour the country for the same amount of money that they were spending living in their, suburban home. But if somebody like me was watching their videos back in the day and saying, okay, because remember that I was living in my suburban home with a pool on 3.5 acres and all that for less than $20,000. If I was watching their videos where they're doing it for 60, I'd be thinking, well, gee, I can't do that, or maybe I don't want to do that. Why would I want to spend 3 times as much just to go live in a travel trailer? So, we have to be real careful who we follow and who we listen to. And so if we get a Ram magazine pitch in our mailbox that says you can live in Ecuador on $21,000, same principle. We've been seeing people through the years on and off leaving Ecuador because they actually couldn't live on what the Rams were saying. And so I just want to thank you for coming to my channel, and if you like our material, spread it around, help us spread it around, and put it on your social media and tell your friends about it. And I really appreciate you watching my channel. And remember, we're a group that is possibility thinkers, and we make things happen. So thanks again, and have a wonderful day.